Look, I know it's cliche to say that something is better than it has any right to be, but how else do you describe the Mario and Rabbids series? I mean, it's an Ubisoft-developed IP crossover consoleized strategy game. It has every right to be terrible, and yet, it's not. Quite the opposite, in fact. I was late to the party the first time around, having only found time to play Mario and Rabbids 1 earlier this year, but I absolutely loved it even half a decade removed from its original release. And it's that experience that made its sequel a day one purchase for me. Now that we're on day 7, I've had enough time to complete the main quest and sample a healthy amount of the side content, and if there's one word that describes Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, it's daring. This is a sequel that does not play it safe. It touches integral gameplay systems from the first title and changes them drastically, in ways I was not prepared for. Some of those ways are jarring, but overall I think they pulled it off. This is a superb sequel, even if the floppy-eared shadow of its predecessor does loom over the experience a little bit. The premise for the game is simple. An evil galactic entity known as Cursa is harvesting resources and stealing Rabbid Lumas, aka Sparks, from tons of different planets. It's up to Mario, Rabbids and friends and frenemies to team up, travel from planet to planet, and take down Cursa and her henchmen to save all the Sparks. Sounds simple enough, but within this premise lies a pretty major structural difference in terms of how Rabbids works: the level and world design. In the original game, there was a central hub where the different worlds were more or less spokes on a wheel. They circled around the main area and you would travel through them linearly, with an occasional side puzzle or secret area. It had this cool gimmick where fights would actually take place in the world rather than being their own instanced arenas, but aside from that, it was probably the weakest aspect of Kingdom Battle. It followed a very generic Mario theme template of grass level, desert level, ice level, etc. The exploration incentives were really boring, they were just kind of like stamps or the occasional healing item. You weren't really missing out on anything if you just critical pathed it. Sparks of Hope has changed this, and prioritized the worlds and how you move through them. They aren't one interconnected map this time, but instead fully unique planets. And though we do lose some of the cohesion that comes with moving around one single landscape, it does free up the artists and world designers to make planets truly their own. On a purely thematic level, the landscapes manage to feel Mario-inspired without just ripping directly from Mario. One of my favorite worlds is this fantasy grassland where you meet a rabid train conductor that takes you on his Wiggler train. There's another world that's a picturesque autumn village, home to a rabid poet whose work will wax and wane as he translates the world around him into verse. They're just really fun and interesting world designs, and very crucially on the gameplay front, there's much more reason to dig into them for long periods of time. Look, I'll be blunt, they Ubisofted it. You know the treatment it got, you know the map markers, the meters, the UI elements that were committed to this game's design, but I'll be honest, I think the game is better for it. I know this type of thing doesn't rub everyone the right way, but I think it's important to recognize they didn't overdo it with the Ubisofting. The side content here is mostly meaningful. There is an occasional kill 3 Goombas quest or whatever, but for the most part what you'll be engaging with is new encounter scenarios, side puzzles, new characters, and even entire secret bosses. There's a lot of interesting stuff off the critical path this time, and there's even a few gameplay incentives for traveling down them. One of them is the introduction of consumable items. Healing mushrooms, damage boosts, purifies, and more can now be used within a battle, and their existence gives the game a little carrot to put on the side content stick. There's also world-specific currencies that can be unlocked to let you buy cosmetic items from the vendor, like new weapon skins. But these are all of secondary importance to the titular Sparks. The Sparks are your Rabbid Lumas that can be assigned to your characters to give them buffs. Many of them can be acquired just by progressing through the campaign, but many more of them are optional quest unlocks. They each have an active and passive effect and can be leveled up and swapped around between the units in your party. Later in the campaign, you'll even get the ability to assign 2 to a character at once. And it's at that point a profound amount of strategy opens up in finding Sparks and characters that synergize with each other. For example, Rabid Mario is your melee bruiser character, and I found that he pairs amazingly well with the Spark that can suck enemies in closer so they can get into your range. Simple example, but there's a ton of cool stuff you can do. It's a simple system that adds a lot to the combat. Oh yeah, the combat. When I said before that Sparks of Hope was a daring sequel, the combat is what I was talking about. There are a few small tweaks to the way movement and attacking behave that manifest in way more active combat overall. Movement is no longer its own discrete action to be input. Instead, whenever it's your turn, you can control your characters in any order you want, and you can freely move them within a radius around where they started their turn. That's it, you just move them. There's no meter that's decreasing or anything like that. Your ability to move ends when you fire out a shot of your primary weapon. You can think of it as planting your feet to fire, then they can't move for the rest of the turn, only use items or sparks or something like that. But combo this with Mario and Rabbids' staple mechanic of jumping off your teammates' heads, and you can pop off some shots midair, then glide behind cover, which helps mitigate the downside of shooting making you rooted. In many ways, it feels like it had many of the exact same combat design goals of Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and the exact same game design questions. It just came to them with much different answers. You're still going to be moving and jumping a ton to take advantage of stomping bonuses, aerial advantages, and the ability to rapidly reposition. You'll also be going through pipes and on jump pads, but this time you'll be much more direct. This is best represented by the reduced combat significance of Beepo. Beepo was an entire character introduced in Kingdom Battle to effectively just be a mouse cursor in a platform without a mouse. You would move him around to select who you wanted to move and where, and he was more or less the tool with which you would input all of your commands. He's still here if you need to go into the strategic view and get a close look at enemy stats, but he's no longer the de facto way with which you interface with the game. There's one less layer of arbitration between you and your characters here, and that's double important for one of the combat's other new additions, real-time elements. I was really nervous about the idea of real-time elements meddling with the purity of this turn-based system, but it was done really tastefully, and when you think about it, adding some real-time elements to your strategy is a super on-brand way to handle your Mario spin-off. Some environmental hazards like blowing wind and some enemy hazards like bomb explosions do not wait for you to take your turn, they pass by in real time. Same goes with the way gliding works. When you jump off an ally's head, you'll have a few seconds to direct your character through the air before you fall. It's a bunch of very minor things. Sparks of Hope is by no means a real-time game, in the same way you wouldn't call Paper Mario a real-time game. It's a turn-based game with a sprinkle of real-time. And I think that Paper Mario comparison highlights the same sort of effect the real-time elements have. They aren't a major shift in strategy, but instead a huge win for game feel. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope feels really good to play in a sort of tactile way that a lot of other strategy games don't. It's a combination of that directness and the new movement rules and the real-time components that make you forget you're playing a strategy game, except of course for all the intense strategy going on. It's a great fit for the series, and I hope that any future title half-decade from now retains these elements and priorities. I think they make the combat way better, and it was already so good. Now, is Sparks of Hope a perfect sequel? I wouldn't say so. There's actually some small missteps that I think this title takes, and the biggest of them is the bosses. In terms of both mechanics and theme, the mid-world and end-world bosses of Sparks of Hope are shockingly boring. Like, catastrophically so. And that is an incredibly weird juxtaposition against the first title. I hate to incessantly compare here, but it's unignorable because Kingdom Battle has some of the best bosses in any strategy game I've ever played. Take the final boss of the first world in Kingdom Battle. It's a Donkey Kong rabbit, and he is huge and he is angry. You have to deprive him of his bananas as he rotates around the battlefield, otherwise he will heal from eating them. Look at how expressive he is. Look at his reaction when his bananas are stolen from him as he pounds and yanks on his ears. It's an iconic fight in Kingdom Battle, and it's one of many, a great and memorable encounter. Now look at the final boss of the first planet in Sparks of Hope. It's a nebulous black ooze creature with eyeballs that you have to shoot. That's it. I was hoping that once the eyeballs were all shot, maybe a phase 2 would start and the real fight would begin, but that just didn't happen, and it never happens. Not every boss in Sparks of Hope is this lifeless, but enough of them are that it's really noticeable. It feels like every boss in this game is competing to be the most boring boss in this game, and they're all winning. I can't tell you how long it takes for a boss encounter in this title to just wake up and show you anything interesting. At the end of the day, I think it stems from just an overall poor villain choice. Cursa is this faceless, almost unknowable cosmic entity, and while I get what they were going for, the fact that so much of her legion emulates her facelessness just doesn't fit with the level of expression and identity that the bosses in this series had the first time around. There are a few of Curse's cronies that at the very least have personalities, but they make up the minority of the encounters, and even then, I don't think any of them really hit the bar that Kingdom Battles' tentpole act-ending encounters were consistently able to surpass. Speaking of expression and personality, another major addition is dialogue. Pretty much all the characters except for Mario and Luigi have dialogue. Not spoken dialogue, mind you, just text boxes with grunts and random words. In some ways, this enables the writers to do more with this franchise. You definitely could not have done the previously mentioned poet character, for example, without having the medium of text to work with. But in many ways, I do think it robs a bit from the game's tone. At the risk of sounding boringly corporate, I think the fact that the Mario and Rabbids characters were both silent was pretty good brand synergy. It forced so much of the storytelling to happen through animations and framing and sound effects. It gave the series such a different feel, almost like all the characters were mummers pantomiming through a play. I know that this dialogue will largely be a preference thing, but it didn't do it for me. It definitely doesn't completely stifle all the great story moments, there's still a lot of fun to be had here, it's just not my thing. But here's the largest takeaway. The few areas in which Sparks of Hope does disappoint are definitely the minority. This is a great game and a great sequel, and it's playable proof that this series has real weight, and wasn't just a weird fluke that floated on low expectations. The combat is great, the game feels great, the progression and side content is great. Hell, I didn't talk about it a lot, but the UX is great too. This game just has this magical ability to know what information you need and when, like how it will display team jump radiuses as you get to the edge of someone's range. There's a lot of little stuff like that sounds really boring on paper, but it all funnels into this experience where you'll seldom need to pause and look at specifics. It just lets you stay in the action. It may lack a lot of the major set pieces that Kingdom Battle had, but even without any singular exceptional moments, the aggregate experience here is so consistently great that it makes up for it. I'm definitely going to play more of this one even after I upload the video, and I'm eagerly anticipating the upcoming Rayman DLC that was teased ahead of launch. If you're a fan of the first game, this one is a no-brainer, and if you're new to the series, you should definitely try it. I also have a review of the first game I did earlier this year that I'm linking in the description, so go check it out. Do not let the childlike facade fool you. There is serious strategy gaming to be had in both of these titles if you want it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, do the YouTube things for me, like, comment, and subscribe, bell, etc. A huge thanks to 3 different YouTubers who gave me permission to use their Rabbids footage. Couldn't have done it without them because I can't record Switch at the moment. Ninbanyan, XCageGame, and Yamatufa Gaming. All 3 of them have their channels linked in the description. I'll see you next video.